Hello, and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including DuckTales, which we'll be talking about today. I'm your host, Bonilla, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And Steve Zeck.
Hello.
Today we are discussing the second batch of episodes in May. Last week we covered 4 episodes that aired in the same week, and this time around we're covering 5 episodes that aired in the following week. We'll be talking about Nothing Can Stop Della Duck, Raiders of the Doomsday Vault, Friendship Hates Magic, The Dangerous Chemistry of Gandra D, and The Duck Knight Returns. If you want to catch our previous discussions on DuckTales, you can do that at overlyanimated.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes at overlyanimated.com/iTunes. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. Wherever you listen to us, we always appreciate any ratings and reviews you want to leave us. But yeah, so we're getting ready to dive back into DuckTales. We got, again, a lot of stuff to cover here. And a lot of characters to touch upon. So I guess we'll begin with our usual general thoughts on the batch. If there was anything in particular that stood out to you of the bunch, Michelle, let's go to you first. How are you feeling after this week of DuckTales?
I feel like I was really critical of the last batch, but this batch I absolutely loved. I was having such a good time watching these, and I don't think, there's maybe one episode that I have, very torn feelings about, but all the other ones I feel super good. And, I don't know, just a lot of, funny dialogue, a lot of really good animation stood out to me this batch. And, I was not, waiting for, when is this episode ending so I can go to the next one. I very thoroughly enjoyed all of them. So I'm, super happy now. We haven't really seen a ton with Donald. I mean, there's kind of a cliffhanger, but I'm curious how those episodes, if we're going to get a lot of Moon episodes later, how those will pair with these. But, yeah, these get thumbs up for me. I enjoyed them a lot.
All right. Steve, how about you?
Oh, I loved all these episodes. Unlike the last batch, it kind of got better each day. This one, I can't. It's hard for me to rank them. I can't really rank them.
Mm-hmm.
Even my fifth favorite episode, whatever that is, I probably loved anyway. So every episode gave me something I wanted. Has some great little quality to it. I don't want to. I hate to sound like a fanboy, but the show was on point this week.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they do with Donald. I kind of want to see perhaps him and Penny kind of bond a bit because, we made that parallel last week to them being similar. I'm very excited that Lena is back.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you think that was going to happen? I really didn't think it was going to happen.
Well, I probably thought I was sort of spoiled because, San Diego Comic-Con kind of said she would be back. They showed a new design and this new friend, Violet, who I kind of like her too. I kind of have Webby sort of has her own version of the triplets, pretty much, her own little girl team. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited though. I saw some previews for when the episodes come back in the fall. That we're going to have an episode with all 6 of the kids. And and it looks like they're together on the same side. I'm just glad this show is not going to do any stupid battle of the sexes stuff. So good for that. And Mark Beeks is back, and I gotta say, Beeks he when he's dealing with Gizmo Duck, he is much more of an intimidating and more of a non-joke villain. When Gizmo Duck's not around, he's a complete joke. But Gizmo Duck brings out the best in him. What can I say? And
so that there's definitely a lot of new characters and ones that we'd gone a long time without seeing that we'll probably get deeper into. But I'll just say what my general thoughts, that I'm in agreement that this is definitely a jump in consistency from where we were last week. I think that there's Especially with Della, I feel that we definitely jumped a little bit in like her usage here in this week, and Steve has already mentioned stuff with Mark Beeks and Gizmo Duck being used in ways that like were interesting to watch. So we have the last episode, which I think is doing some very interesting things as well. So I definitely had a lot more fun with this batch than I was expecting, and so I'm happy with this. It's still definitely way too 5 episodes in a week is still a lot to pack in, but but there was a lot to like about these episodes, and we could really start from anywhere here, but Steve already mentioned a lot about Lena, so I guess we'll let Michelle give your opinions on the return of Lena, since that was a thing that we had been waiting for a while. How do you feel about about her return, as well as if you want to talk about Violet too, we can bring that in too.
It is such a relief to see Lena back, just because she was one of my highlights from the first season. I also love that episode's literally just called "Friendship Hates Magic." It's so good.
I'm disappointed that Kelpies weren't in it.
Oh, well, maybe they'll find their way back somehow. Violet seems really cool too. I was a little initially worried that Lena spends a lot of the episode just like really mistrusting Violet, and we get why, because it reminds her of her past self when she was really using Webby to get to magic and get what she wanted. And she fears for the same thing with Violet, but it also just kind of raises this catty kind of like, oh no, like I'm being replaced by this other girl, so I have to hate her. So one thing I really do appreciate is the episode takes time at the very end to establish that they're getting along now, and they both like team up to mess with Webby, and you can see this actual friendship forming with all 3 of them, and Lena's included there. And I think like that's a really good touch, just because a lot of times we see this ending not so great for girls like competing with each other. So that yay, all of them like each other. That's a big relief.
Well, I'm hoping we have an OKK episode like that soon, but that's another story. I just want to say, though, I agree with Michelle, though. Lena's the whole thing of mistrusting of Violet was legit, was 2 things. Was guilt of her past actions, but I thought mainly it's more so jealousy and insecurities, being replaced. I think that has more to do than the actual, like, logic of Violet might be up to something. She was scared that she's going to lose Webby. And, she's a very vulnerable place, because if you know her history, she really had no, like, friends or family, really. She was just Magica's shadow spy. So you can't really blame her completely. She doesn't really have an upbringing. She's trying.
And definitely Michelle raises a point about how like these kind of stories usually, like, a lot of times will end up being like, oh, we're pretending to be your friend and we turn against you, like what the Lena storyline was, right? So it's like you're worried it's going to be a repeat situation, but then like it turns around and it seems like Violet is just like genuinely into the occult, but without like much malice behind it, and Lena is eventually caught in. They're allowed to be friends, and like that in itself it feels a lot nicer to look at versus like like later in a different episode you get a situation where a person is approaching to be a friend, and then it turns out they're a spy, and so like that's like the more common.
I got thoughts on that. On that and how that connects to Lena. I want to compare, but that's another story. When we get to that episode,
yes,
we'll talk
exactly.
about that.
But so definitely, and also like I think Miraculous Ladybug also has a situation where it's like a character is like is for some reason very knowledgeable about the mythology, and it's like, oh no, they're actually like doing manipulative things. It's like that's such a common way to go. So Violet actually like being just a nice girl is very refreshing in that way.
When I saw Violet's design at Comic-Con, and we peeped, the fandom had so much theories over who she could connect it with. I mean, people originally thought maybe she's related to Mark Beeks, or some people also later thought maybe she's related to Olsen, just because her design, we didn't really get a good close-up of her design. It's just very confusing, but it seems like she's not related to anybody. She's just a complete new character. But I mean,
Yeah, and it's interesting, in the middle of the episode, we introduced that, like, Violet has this amulet that was magic, because it's like, the episode is immediately, like, trying to, like, add the doubts, and Lena is, I think rightfully, at least from that knowledge, is like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, something that's connected to me. But then, like, it turns out, they like, she does, like, a good storytelling of how just the Shadow War happened, and, like, she came across that and, like, the wreckage, and she is just very interested in it. So, but the episode does a good job of, like, like, really manipulating you to think a certain way, but then, like, that way it feels a lot more, a lot better once it turns back to, no, Violet is actually a good person.
Seeing these three is going to be very cool to see in the future. Violet is exactly the character I hoped she would be when we first found out Webby was going to have a second friend, because she's a perfect counterbalance to Lena. Well, she's more, like, book smart. She's more of, as they say in this episode, more of a nerd. While Lena, she's just this cool, like, street smart kid. So they sort of, like, kind of opposites, but they're making it work.
Plus, Webby's like, she's the middle ground, right? Like, she is book smart like Violet, but she's a nerd for adventure. So she's a lot like Lena in that respect too. So they're a good tri-team. Just like a possibility. Yeah, and also, there also could be counterbalanced to the triplets, because I always see Violet kind of could be like Huey in terms of sort of being like a book smart type of person, and Lena could be like kind of like Louie, who's sort of a street smart, can sometimes be a con artist, can talk the way out of jams, and Webby and Dewey are just these sucker for adventures and get excited over any little thing. So, yeah, we kind of have our female triplets here, even though they're not triplets.
I'll also say that at the end of the episode, when the issue has been solved and whatnot, and, like, Webby is like, oh, we're having a good time, and, like, both Lena and Violet, like, team up together to, like, freak her out and stuff. So, like, they've already got, like, chemistry going on between the three of them. Like, it's not just two people who like Webby, but also, like, they're already, like, in a place where they're beginning to be okay with each other. So that's definitely bodes well for them having good interactions, and if they use them together in future episodes.
Can I tell you a little secret? A little production secret?
Nah, I don't want it.
No, okay. All right. I just want to say this episode it takes place before any of the episodes in these last 2 weeks. This was supposed to air first.
Really?
Before every other episode we got the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Out of order.
A lot of sense, because I kept being like, so, like, has she not cared about looking up stuff about magic for Lena the whole season until now? So that makes a lot more sense. So from the beginning, it was a thing she wanted to do.
And if Lena was in Webby's shadow, like at the beginning of the season, I kind of wonder what she thought at the beginning of the season, that first, the most dangerous game night, when, like, Dewey was so proclaimed Webby's sort of best friend, and we saw how jealous she could get in this episode.
I want to say, like, the beginning of this episode is, like, really good, with, like, Lena being kind of, like, commenting on Webby's goings on, and, like, she is, and, like, the whole dynamic of, like, her not being able to interact with Webby for most of the episode. Then we, like, switch to her perspective of, like, in the Shadow Realm, and, like, she's, like, seeing ghosts around her, and, like, the animation switches to almost, like, almost black and white, but, like, blue and white more. And then, like, you get the moment where, like, she pulls them into the Shadow Realm, and, like, that's done very interesting. I just want to highlight, like, they do a really good job of representing Lena's perspective in this episode, and they do very interesting things with, like, how she has to, like, figure out how to interact with Webby and Violet here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, let's see. I mean, they're all great, but I'm trying to figure out, like, what major stuff that we haven't.
Oh, don't forget you got a B plot with lots.
Well, yeah, that I'm saving that. I'm saving that, but, like, I'm just, like, focusing on the girls, because, like, let's also say, I mean, admit it, as Steve mentioned, like, this is aired kind of out of order, but that's also just been, like, DuckTales' whole MO for its entire show run, so, but the fact that, like, Lena has not shown up for most of the season, do you think that helps or hurts this episode at all?
I mean, it's just that other plot stuff kind of got in the way. I mean, honestly, it surprised me that Della was only in 2 of these 5 episodes, really, because I thought, like, she was gonna be on every adventure now, because she was integrated into the family dynamic.
She was in 3 episodes in a row, going back to last week, and then, then here she just disappears the last 3 episodes of this batch.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, I thought she'd be in honestly all of them, but I mean, it's good for them to have side things too. I mean, someone else went on a date and it had nothing to do with like anybody, and that's fine. Well, I guess Webby and Red Shirt were there, but besides them,
yeah, and you had Launchpad meeting his hero, and his hero just kind of turning evil. It's just that's harsh
we're gonna talk about that. That was the episode I felt really weird about.
Okay. Let's shift over, because first we'll discuss the B plot in this episode, because this is I think this is Mrs. Beakley's major contribution to this batch of episodes, is that she's trying to become. Webby points out to her like, "Hey, you don't have friends either," and it's like, so she tries to have a bond with Launchpad. And like, there's this whole thing where like Launchpad is very nervous because he thinks he's being tested to get fired or something.
I would believe that too if I were Launchpad.
Yeah, it's very relatable, especially when you attach this to like Della showing up and like she's a pilot.
Oh, totally.
But this takes place before that, though. That's the thing.
Yeah. but so all that happens, and then at the end, they figure out their common place is Darkwing Duck, this show, because she's reading a book about someone in a mask, and Launchpad in an experience which I'm pretty sure all of us on this podcast have had. It's like, you gotta watch this show because you like something tangentially related to this.
Yeah, I know.
So that happens, and eventually Beakley gets into it, but it was canceled prematurely, and so she is disheartened at the fact that it ended on a real twist. So they're like, "We're gonna film the ending."
I can relate. I feel the same way about Symbiotic Titan, so I can relate.
Yeah, man, I'm sure there are many prematurely canceled shows out there that there are fan scripts for endings for. So this is probably very relatable to people. But this will lead into the episode of Darkwing, but I just want to say, like, in this episode, like, it's been a while since like Launchpad had like a full comedic plot line to himself, and I really enjoyed just like every time we cut to Beakley and Launchpad in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same. Launchpad's always good in B plots like this. All of his like dialogue and like silly nonsense just works so well against something that's like slightly more serious than an A plot.
And and hopefully he can win Della over, because I'm sure it much painful to realize that his best friend's mom doesn't like him. I'm sure it'll drive him like really pains him, because him and Dewey are best friends.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
One-sided friendship.
Wow.
Well, it's not as
I mean, we haven't heard Green Shirt confirm that they're best friends.
Well, Storkleys and Donald sort of have the same type of thing, so maybe it runs in that family that they got these one-sided friends.
That's true. They just attract people who just love them so much, and they feel all kinds of not good about it.
And so the reason that is relevant is because then we see the twist revealed in the episode at the end, as the Duck Knight returns, which was the villain in the finale looked just like him, and that leads us into this whole episode about the actor playing Darkwing Duck.
Wait, before we get
to
this episode, can I just take one last point on the Friendship Hates Magic?
Sure.
That is the first episode that had no members of the Duck/McDuck family in it. No blood relatives are in this episode. But just their friends.
But Webby is family, though.
But not blood relatives. I'm talking about blood relatives. Like, I'm talking about,
family isn't all about blood.
she's a duck. They're ducks. It's blood, duck blood. Still, that's the distant family. But
yeah,
I think it can
we'll make a joke
count.
about that in another episode too. Beaks makes a joke about that. I'm just trying to make a point that this is historic.
You're right.
In terms of like how this show, I'm trying to make a point how this show has such a wide cast that they can do episodes without like they could take out a whole like main family and still have enough of a core cast to have a great episode.
Yeah, and we'll remind me to bring something up about that at the end of this podcast.
Okay.
But yeah, with the Duck Knight Returns, we have Launchpad getting pretty much a full episode, but like he's caught up in this whole drama between the old Duckwing, realizing there's a movie being made about him, and the new Duckwing, and Darkwing. I said Duckwing.
Oh,
he's a duck also. You weren't wrong.
All ducks have wings, but only one can be a Darkwing, I guess.
Yeah, ducks don't fly in this series. None of them can fly.
That's true. Oh no, that's essential. But so Michelle, you mentioned that you were having weird feelings about this episode. Expound on that.
Oh, it's just. I mean, why does he? I mean, I guess like we didn't really know him much as a character, so it makes sense that he would be kind of egotistical and assume that like he is the face of Darkwing, not like, yo, he's an actor, the brand doesn't belong to him, they can always make new things without him, they have no allegiance to him. Like, that totally goes over his head. He's the only one who deserves to play it. But then he goes, like, total, like, into Joker mode, basically, at the end. I'm like, oh, no, so this is gonna be, like, a reoccurring plot where he's, like, the evil, crazy Darkwing Duck from the sewer who has a yellow coat, who's gonna fight the other actor who wants to do real crime now? And it just seemed like I don't know, it threw me through a loop because I did not see that happening.
Well, this will be like will work better for you guys if you saw the 1991 Darkwing Duck series, because what he turns into a character called he turns into a character. Well, no, not really, but in that show, there's like. The actor, like Darkwing Duck, is Darkwing Duck, who's voiced by Jim Cummings here, and there's Mega Duck, who's like his just evil twin for some reason. He looks just like him, also voiced by Jim Cummings. So you kind of have sort of the origins of Mega Duck in this show.
Negaduck, not Mega.
Negaduck. Yeah, what did I say? Negaduck.
Oh, okay, it sounded like Mega. Because there's like a different villain named Mega Beaks in the other episode.
Yeah, there is a different villain.
Mega Volt. That's the electrocuted guy.
Oh, yeah,
the guy with the big mustache.
Yeah, the one that they made to look like Bane from the Dark Knights. But yeah. I'll say that I have not watched a single second of the 91 Darkwing series. And
same.
And yet I really enjoyed this because like it's using all the I don't want to say tired superhero tropes, because like I do think that we're getting at a point where now it's kind of like obviously there was a phase where like all superhero movies are dark and gritty and like I think that media has already done a lot of like making fun of that phase. So now I'm like starting to get to the point where like it's a little bit too much. It's like, okay, we get it, guys. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like I still think that they're doing fun things with the parody. But like what I especially enjoy is like we begin the episode with the twist of like the villain looking just like the hero. And then like we're wrapping it in like the tropes of like heroes are now need to be gritty and stuff. And so we pay that off at the end with like the person who's supposed to be the hero turning into a villain and driven by his like ego and maniacalness. And like he turns into the thing that he was fighting in his past. So I don't know. There's something about the way that this episode is set up from beginning to end that definitely makes it feel like it was all working towards that, and I really appreciate the thematic through line of that.
Well, episode. I blame the director of that movie for turning him evil because he was very rude. He could have at least called him and just get him a consulting role or something, and just be respectful, and get his blessing or something. He just made this movie without even telling him a word about it. So I understand why he's upset.
I understand why he's upset, but that's how companies work. They own the IP. They have no allegiance to old actors. Like, it's nice if they show them common decency, but it's not their job, unfortunately.
And this was a wild episode. I mean, I think the movie version Dewey was trying to make with all the dancers and stuff. I think that's more
amazing.
I think that's more of reference to the Joel Schumacher Batman movies. You know, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin.
Like, let's just say it. Darkwing Duck's basically Batman. Like, it's very blatantly Batman.
Yeah, and also those Darkwing Duck dancers, though, they definitely give me vibes of the vibes about these music videos that Prince did for the original Batman movie, Party Man, and some other songs he's done. Because they did this one song when the Joker had all these back dancers, these female back dancers. It just
yeah, I believe that particular song was called Bat Dance.
Yeah,
Bat Dance.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I know this Party Man, this back dance. Okay, let's get back on topic. This is not the Prince podcast.
And I'll say that another interesting thing about the director is that he's voiced by Edgar Wright, which he originally was supposed to direct Ant-Man, but he got removed due to creative differences. So, like, it's an interesting choice to make him be the director that somehow gets his project hijacked. But, you know, so I enjoyed that. In the trailer that they showed, Launchpad and the Darkwings was interesting in terms of, like, you know, like going full in on like parody of Dark Knight and other like Batman vs Superman 2. The pearls are dropping like 5 times in the trailer.
I love how many times the pearls drop before they actually fall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wonder though. Going to be a point though when we find out that Fenton and Drake, their mothers has the same name. I kind of wonder at some point you're going to find that out.
Well, that would be in the movie version, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you get the the Batman versus Superman.
Yeah. And they'd both be like, Mama?
Yeah.
Like doesn't Fenton just keep calling his mom Mama?
Yeah. I'm not sure that's her real name, but yeah.
Yeah, she probably has a real name. But, and so we have the introduction of Drake Mallard, who is this super fan who's playing Darkwing Duck now, and like he ends up being convinced by a Launchpad at the end to take up the mantle. And I wanted to also like get your guys' takes on like how this episode deals with fandom, right? Because it's like this person who's like a real super fan of it is like, no, like I get what the character is meant to be. Whereas like the person who's playing it like somehow's like kind of lost track of it. And so I wonder about the message of this, where it's like the people who are really into a thing sometimes understand the character better than the person who's actually playing it. I wonder if that's like a bad, if I'm getting the right message out of this, or like what are we doing here?
Sometimes
I hadn't really considered it. I mean, I don't know. It's not like the definitive answer just because that happened to be the message in this one instance, though, right?
Yeah. And I just know, though, Drake Mallard, of course, was the Darkwing Duck original series, by the way. But I wonder, I'm not sure the message you're trying to send either. What distracted me was how alike Drake and Jim kind of looked and acted, that I'm just saying he's got to be his illegitimate son. Drake is Jim's illegitimate son. I mean, they're too much alike. They look and act too much alike.
I mean, they're both ducks, but like a lot of the ducks look the same on the show with slightly different outfits.
Yeah. I don't know. We get. Yeah, I'm not sure. We get glimpses of Drake's childhood, and yet we don't see a father. So
because he's in school, it's a childhood flashback.
There was that flashback of like him talking about how like Darkwing inspired him. It's like, I'll just keep getting back up. I thought that was kind of sweet, and also like that. But
at the end, didn't he also beat up that bully who like initially was there? Because the bully looked like he got beat up or something in the last comic panel of the flashback. I was like, wait, so his version of getting back up is destroying the person who's causing problems.
Well, and my interpretation was, though, his clumsiness probably defeated the bully. he did some. His clumsiness somehow got the bully to maybe get knocked out, but.
So he didn't like beat him in the face or anything.
No, maybe he just tripped over his cape and something, or the bully trying to punch him and he missed, and he just fell on the floor and punched himself, and that's my interpretation. There's some Three Stooges stuff here.
Okay, well that would make me feel slightly better than he just is like, yeah, I was this shy nerd who loved, the Batman duck until I beat up the bully, and then my life got better.
I know you guys.
That sounds really inspiring the way you said it.
You guys are probably too young to remember this. To know this, the old milk commercial when this Milk It Does It Body Good campaign. When you see this small, always this small kid that says, "I'm going to drink milk and get stronger," and then each panel you see the person grow older. It kind of remind me of that.
Yeah, that's terrible because that's about this little boy, and it's like, yeah, I got tough, and I got a girlfriend when I was ripped, and I reached the ultimate life. And it's like, okay, 1980, whatever. That's interesting priorities.
That sounds like a thing that SpongeBob parodied at some point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe with the anchor arms. Yeah. Sure, and everyone loves me.
Yeah, just Google Milk It Does the Body Good, and then you'll see some commercials for that. So
is Drake a secret jerk? No, although in this episode he's pretty sweet. And...
adult Drake seems fine. That's why the flashback threw me.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, though for some reason he has some issues with Gizmo Duck, who, for all we know, he's a nice guy too. So
yeah, why does no one like Gizmo? I don't know about that.
I don't know. I just think it's like some big. How a lot of Batman fans don't like Superman, and just you have to be on one team. Your team.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's an Edward Jacob situation for DuckTales.
Yeah,
sure.
I get it.
And Launchpad is dominating social media, and so it's Darkwing fans feel like he's being neglected, and they want Darkwing to rise.
Well, for me though, my team is obvious when if he ever shows up, Team Duck Avenger.
Avenger.
That's Donald Duck's superhero alter ego. Donald Duck has a superhero alter ego in the comics sometimes.
Wait, what? That could be a huge spoiler. What if Donald does become a superhero and we're not supposed to know yet?
Hey, but you know what's the biggest heroic act of them all? Raising children. Never mind.
One other thing. In the original Darkwing Duck, Drake had a foster daughter named Goslin.
Okay.
So I kind of wonder if she might appear.
This is too deep. We're too deep into the mythology now.
We're too deep.
We're too deep. We're too deep. So the Darkwing has a lot of stuff going on here, but Launchpad is interesting in this episode too because even they comment on it in episode. They're like, "This is the most coherent he's ever been." But even though he's probably just reciting lines from the show, but it definitely feels like a little. And they refer to him as sidekick multiple times in this episode. I was reading some stuff online, reactions to this episode, and something that came up kind of frequently was people talking about the potential of Launchpad kind of taking a back seat and being perhaps moving towards a Darkwing specific role, especially with Della in here. And I'm a little scared for that, but also I can with this episode I can kind of see this being an opportunity if you wanted to go the direction of shifting Launchpad's character a little. I don't know how you guys feel about that idea.
I feel like he'd do great there, but I would really miss his rapport with the rest of the Duck fam. Because that's so good. Plus, he still drives the car. It's not like he has to not drive the plane so he can't be in the show anymore. Half of his job is driving the car. Yeah. He can still do that.
I think that was his original job at the beginning of the series. That's all he did. Anyway, I could see what you do here is maybe not fully commit to him leaving, becoming Darkwing Duck's sidekick, which is what he was in the 91 series. I think we could have an episode when he looks like he's going to leave Scrooge and become Darkwing's sidekick, and at the very end decides not to. Like a cliffhanger, like a cliffhanger. I'm going to just like at the season 1 finale when Donald and the boys were going to move to Cape Suzette. Something similar here with Launchpad, and maybe that when Della finally just decides just to, like him, just say, you know what. My boys love you, so I'm I'm just gonna tusk in and we'll make it work.
Yeah, so that's also another direction we could go, or like he at least is tempted by it. But like I got the feeling that like we're gonna see the Darkwing guys again, so we'll probably include Launchpad in that.
I gotta see Negaduck and Beaks team up. I see that because they're both similar. They're both such big egos, so I could see that just the partnership kind of ending like very badly because they're both such big egomaniacs, but they're also kind of incompetent too. So.
Yeah. And speaking of Beaks, before we move on to Beaks' episode, anything else you guys want to get out of the way from this episode? Because this episode did have a lot, admittedly.
Oh, we need more villains with mustaches.
I say no. No mustaches.
I'm about to say those Darkwing dancers, they look very attractive. I like them. I thought they're very cool designs.
I'll just say specifically, Scrooge when he mentioned mustaches, he was talking about mustaches that could be twirled, and like with that, I agree with him. Like if you're gonna do a villain and they're gonna have a mustache, make it long enough so they can be twirled, and that's the one thing that Sonic the Hedgehog is doing right. They're giving Jim Carrey a very curly mustache. You know that works.
They gave him.
I think bring up point though that's pretty much twirling mustaches. That's what Glomgo does, or at least tries to do. Glomgo's the closest.
Yeah, he had an episode earlier where like he had like a fake curly mustache on. So yeah, see, Glomgold knows the proper villain tactics. And we will get to Glomgold later. Don't you worry. But I guess we can move over to Beaks' episode, since he was also mentioned, and he appears in The Dangerous Chemistry of Gandra D.
Yes.
I so predicted this. Like on the Discord the day before it aired, I predicted exactly what was going to happen, and it happened.
What do you mean you predicted it?
I predicted that Gandra was going to be working for Mark Beaks, and by episode end, she would turn to the good side. So.
Well, I mean, the tagline is The Dangerous Chemistry of Gandra. So, I mean, I feel like it kind of clues you in right there. Something's up.
Yeah. Well, go to Discord and go to the date before the episode aired, and you'll see how right.
Folks, if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, you know that Steve really wants credit when he figures out things before episodes air. So humor him and go look up our Discord, which you can find at discord.com/overlyanimated. Yeah, that's we have Gandra D, who is like propped up as this like I work by my own rules, and Fenton, who is very by the book, and immediately the kids Huey and Webby begin shipping them. I was not exactly a fan of like this angle of the episode because it felt very quick and. Well, I don't know. How do you guys feel about the love side of this episode?
It seems like Fenton was feeling it, though. That's what made me not care as much about the kid shipping it, because he seemed like really into Gandra. And can I just say something?
Sure.
When Gandra meets him, she negs him so hard, and I was like, damn, this is like kind of painful. But Fenton like rubs it, like he shrugs it off, and he like goes on with everything and keeps being really excited about science with her. But it's just like, wow, that's such a power move, Gandra. Like, okay, I don't know if I like you.
Yeah, well, it's gonna be interesting to what happens though when she meets Mama, because there's such like opposite ends here in terms of it's kind of implied that Gandra might have a criminal past, and I'm not sure Mama is gonna approve. So there could be definitely
a police officer too.
Yes,
right?
I know. Yeah, she's a police officer. So
yeah,
she might, if she has a criminal past, she might know. She might have files on her. So it'll be interesting what happens, because I don't know. I can't predict here, though, that Gandra is Mama's going to find out Fenton is Gizmo Duck through Gandra. Gandra's just going to assume his mom knows and just going to casually bring it up, and that's how she's going to find out her son is Gizmo Duck.
That's one way of getting around it. And
though I actually think she might know for real. I think she doesn't let Fenton know that she knows, but we'll see.
Yeah, and in this episode, despite Fenton denying that it's a date. It gets put up like a date, and they bond over science eventually. But and then it's revealed that Gandra is working for Mark Beeks. And I'll be the first to say I really enjoyed Beeks in this episode.
I love him. His dance segment when he's fighting up the lasers was like one of the peaks of the entire episode.
He hits a dab. He got a dab in.
It's so good.
And we find out he definitely has daddy issues.
That was an interesting line.
And I love how he says, Huey asked him, "Do you have a heart?" He says, "Yes, I do. Somewhere underneath these pecs." And like he's really proud of these pecs. And I'm just saying, Mark Beeks, you could have just gone to Hecapoo's dimension if that's what you wanted. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, and also like in the beginning, he's just like very impatient. He's just like downing blue liquid as if it's
him
like
getting crunk is also an amazing sequence that it's pretty quick, but like it's so funny.
Yeah, and like because you get the impression he's kind of like drunk or like high or whatever. Then like that scene where he's just like dancing around, deactivated, everyone's just like to like EDM music. It's just great. So and then he like activates his nanotechnology thing that like makes him giant. It turns him to Mega Beaks. And eventually he's distracted because he's not able to use a phone now that he's giant, so he can't check if he's viral anymore.
That's such a thing that would happen.
Well, that's so in character because he has such a big ego when it comes to social media. If you take away his cell phone, that be the same thing as killing him. He'd pretty much rather die than not have his cell phone or his technology.
And Gandra shows up at the end to help Fenton out with defeating Mega Beaks, but then she disappears. Right after.
Her disappearance at the end, that's very Goldie-like. So
she's basically Fenton's Goldie.
Yeah. Only I think this her tricking Fenton and doing all that stuff. I think it's a one-shot thing. I don't think she's gonna really do anything to decept him. And again, Goldie. For her whole life, she loves messing with Scrooge. She's also sort of Scrooge's rival. I don't think Gandra should be like Fenton's rival. I think she's just going to be sort of kind of a shady, like kind of a good character, but also a little bit shady. Kind of a bit like Lena, just a little bit. A grown-up Lena. Missing a little bit of Goldie.
Yeah, Gandra seems like a mercenary type, like she'll just accept jobs from anybody, and she'll feel bad about it, but she'll do them,
And can I just bring up this point, man? Now's the time to bring it up. What was off-screened was Huey and Webby telling Fenton about Gandra working for Beeks. I like to think perhaps Webby at least gave Fenton some speech, like how she's been there. She's been through that with Lena, how similar situation, how it all worked out. She gave him a little girl gave this man some life experience talk, like been there, pal.
Libby is pretty wise for her age, so I can see that.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a good one-shot fic to write out, like the missing conversation in between there. Let's see. There is a brief launch pad moment in this episode where he talks about all the people he has had dates with, including a deadly ninja, a wereduck, a mermaid, a Viking shield maiden.
His clone.
His clone, yes.
I think so many. I love Launchpad. He's had so many boos. It's great.
I wonder if his clone was that male or female?
But would it matter?
Yeah.
Right?
But you know what? I was hoping maybe if Launchpad would have just casually just mentioned Darkwing Duck and Fenton be like, he'd be like a negative reaction Darkwing Duck to show that maybe this rivalry is sort of a two-way rivalry. He'd say,
Launchpad clone is an interesting idea. But I guess we're gonna continue just this gag, all his.
Are they ever gonna meet? All his girlfriends gonna be in the same place, right in confronting him? Who do you want to marry, Launchpad, or something like that?
Yeah. Let's hear. Brief cold takes on hot foods. Fenton invents a glazed donut spray, and apparently Mark Beeks does not enjoy the taste of glazed donuts. How do you guys feel about glazed donuts? I'm a fan, personally.
Oh, I love
they're good. They're a classic.
glazed donuts is my favorite kind of donut. So Mark Beeks is a monster. So yeah,
I agree. That's it. And finally, I just want to bring this up because it stood out to me when Mark Beeks pins Fenton to the ground. Oh, I guess he's Gizmo Duck at this point, and like he punches him out. It's like, and he says, "Bye, amigo." So like that kind of stood out to me as like
he's done that before.
Has he?
Yeah, yes, he has, and it definitely makes me uncomfortable still. He did that in the previous episode. The episode?
Well, yeah. I guess Beaks and Gizmo Duck have interacted before.
Yeah, the episode when he tries to become Gizmo Duck, and then when he finds out like that Fenton is Gizmo Duck, and he takes off his suit from him, he says similar line about Amigo, which again I think that's very uncomfortable. I'm not sure. I know he's supposed to be a villain, but I kind of don't think this is really this show should be doing stuff like that. You know,
it's a choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I feel uncomfortable, and if that's what they want me to feel towards Beaks, I mean, sure. But like, it's kind of weird because he's also like a very comedic villain too. So
yeah,
and I don't even think they want you to think that he's like racist or anything. I think it's more guys you just don't know their boundaries. There's sort of racial boundaries you don't cross.
Yeah. But I just wanted to point that out since it stood out to me when I was watching the episode. Yeah, so let's see here. We have not talked about Della yet, and she is a big part of last week.
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking probably in the future. I like to see maybe Beaks capture Mama and Gandra, hold them on top of a cliff, and Gizmo Duck can only save one of them.
Okay.
What?
Sure.
Why would you want that, Steve?
That's a reference to like a Spider-Man thing, I think, or a superhero thing when you can only save one.
I've been keeping myself from saying Steve's fanfic corner this episode, but yeah, that one especially fits there.
Yes.
Well, there's going to be Mama Gandra episode. There's going to be
one. Yeah. We gotta keep Mama on the picture, I guess. But yeah, so over to Della. She is a big character that we talked a lot about last week, and about like how we would deal with her coming back, and she is back, and nothing can stop Della Duck. We have like a full, pretty much the first half of the episode is just like kind of dealing with like the initial reactions to her coming back. We go through an episode like her slowly figuring out her role in the family and being frustrated by it. And we end with like an action sequence of her, jumping into action and protecting her children at the same time. And it all ends very sweetly. But Michelle, how did you feel about finally seeing Della interact with her kids for the first time?
So the one thing I was really scared might happen is that they'd all reject her and blame her and give her a cold shoulder, and she'd just be she'd like feel like she had to prove herself the whole episode, and she just still kind of does. But like, I love that, like all but Green Shirt just like welcome her with open arms. They're just so excited to have her. And Green Shirt's whole thing, like, is super relatable. Like, he's not mad at her. He's not like, you abandoned us when we were eggs. Like, surely, like, Della feels that way, but nobody else is, like, blaming her about it. And his whole thing is, like, well, I just, like, I've grown up without a mom this whole time, and I just don't really know how to have a mom now. Like, it's very relatable and understandable from this, because they're, like, at least, like, 10 or 11 now, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's been at least a decade, so, like, that makes total sense. And at the end, like, she's able to protect him in a moment, and he, like, is like, oh, okay, like, yeah, it is nice to have a mom around sometimes. We can figure this out together. So I actually really like this episode. And Della, I mean, I also wondered, like, is her whole character going to change now that she's going to be in like #mom mode? But no, she's just like as like ridiculous and adventurous, kind of like too adventurous for her kids, which is an angle that I also love. I feel like Mrs. Beakley kind of sees her still as a child in some ways, but like I love that she still has that freedom. Like she doesn't really know how to be a parent yet, and she's gonna figure it out. And Scrooge is like supportive in that, and he's like, yeah, you've been here one day. You really thought you were gonna nail being a mother in one day. So yeah, this was a really good episode for Della. I super liked it.
Yeah, and I agree with like they handled the kids' reactions really well. Like obviously they're gonna be like very well. I really enjoyed like the initial reaction where they're kind of like
scared,
hesitant.
kind of.
Yeah, they're like scared and hesitant at first. There's a line like, "Who's the cyborg?"
Yeah,
because they don't really know what she looks like. Unlike Scrooge, who's like, he's had her in his life a lot longer. So for him, it's like a reunion, but for them, it's like the first meeting ever. They don't know what to think.
Oh,
I love and then like one by one, like they slowly begin like warming up to her, and then we get like Louis expressing his feelings as well. So I think that they did it in a way where like it felt gradual enough, but like it still fit like in the pacing of the episode, where it's like it's not all of a sudden, but like also it feels reasonable that like they like each get to her at their own speed,
Totally.
So like dealing with them as separate characters, which the show has done a good job of for a long time. But like here, like it stands out as like these are three different people, and they're gonna handle it in different ways,
Yeah. And I like how they're all like relatable, and they made the point throughout the episode that she is trying. She's not going to get it right away. And the kids, they get it too. They understand. They're 10, 11 years old. They're not stupid. They're not like other medias would probably have them just be like you abandoned me or something.
I know, such a trope. That was
also a trope. So they do a little trope with Della just not hearing the whole conversation.
Yeah,
but they subverted a little bit, because you know what I thought Della was going to do? I thought you were just going to run away.
Yeah, just pack up and leave. Like, hurt my feelings. I'm done.
They didn't do that, so that surprised me. So that's very good. I also love how like Louis kind of his thought initial reaction was maybe this is a trick by Magica, and I'm like, damn, she would do that. She is evil enough to do something like that. So.
I echo your thoughts, Steve, in terms of the middle there, where we have the conversation, the family meeting about Della, and like we get half the sentence of Della is not a mom, and Della just runs off. At least not yet. She will fit in soon.
Yeah.
But it's like that part like got a real groan out of me, because it's like we've done this so many times. Like in the middle of a conversation, it sounds bad, and then the rest of it redeems it. But the person who's heard is not there. But you're right that the show does a decent enough job of like not like once that happens, they stick to like Della being more like, okay, well, now I know what they feel like, but like let me see what I can do to help. And then very quickly, like we get to Della and Scrooge talking, and Scrooge is like, no, that's not what I was saying. And so like at least it's resolved quickly enough that it doesn't like hang over the rest of the episode. Mm-hmm. So so that is one low moment in this, but like it's surrounded by a lot of good moments. Mm-hmm. And we also like have scenes in the first half of just like Della being very excited about trying to be a mom, and she does things like make really bad cake.
Moon's best mom.
Yeah, and tell scary stories. And so like that also, all of that also like helps to, because for a long time we've talked with Della as like being like very super focused on like getting home because she wants to be a mom, and like that was kind of like hiding the rest of her personality. But like here, we get like her slowly realizing that that she needs to like learn how to be a mom, and that like adds an extra layer to her that makes it a lot more interesting to watch her do these mom things, So like I appreciate the obviously we might not have been able to get here without the earlier Della episodes. I can concede that, but like it definitely feels a lot better seeing Della in these episodes versus our initial views on her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. Now she doesn't have to be obsessed with being a mom. She just like wants to be a good example of like an adult person in their lives, and that feels a lot more natural and believable than Della on the moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, though poor Donald though.
Oh my god! Yeah. No, Steve, you're always like, I predicted this.
I was ready to say that. I told you guys.
Donald, they would not understand what he said on the moon. That was my favorite part. It was so funny.
And I was right, though. I told you, I said he did not go on the cruise yet, and now they're gonna think they're not gonna be any urgency to find him because they're gonna assume he's on vacation. So.
Also, I believe you. I don't know if it was you or someone else, but it's probably you because you mentioned something about like he would probably like the black licorice thing, and like he is very pleased to chew that gum.
I don't think I ever said that. So
okay.
Maybe you did.
Not die.
That's fair.
That's all.
Yeah, so I enjoy like every time like Della mentions Donald, we just cut away to him like screaming out loud in the rocket. And then finally at the end we get like the cliffhanger of the general ordering to seize him. But yeah, poor Donald, he doesn't get to witness Della's return. And
finally his speech patterns, his people not able to understand him, kind of comes back to haunt him.
Yeah, at least for now.
It's the life that Donald has to live, and he gets by. There's also a moment in this episode where like Della goes over to Donald's boat, and she like sees all the pictures of Donald raising the kids, and she's just like, "You did a good job, Donald," you know, and like that was also another very, very sweet moment, and also like recognizing Donald's role in this show, you know,
and his labor. It's a lot of work raising kids that like aren't technically yours because your sister disappears for 10 years. Like, good job, Donald, being a good brother.
Yeah. And at the end is them like fighting the golden robot person. I don't have much to say about that part. It's like it serves primarily to like see the kids teaming up with the mom and like them like working together to take him down. There's like an air horn situation. But and so Della protects Louis from getting smashed. It's like, we're gonna go on adventures together, you guys, and I'm gonna try being a better mom / person. So and that leads into Raiders of the Doomsday Vault, which is our second Della episode. We only bring Dewey and Webby along of the kids.
No, I don't think Webby's there. Just
Dewey. Webby. Oh yeah, you're right. Webby is.
We just assume she's there, but she's not.
I'm not sure I predicted this in the last podcast or not, but I do think that perhaps we're going to have each character going to have sort of a Della bonding episode, and I think this is Dewey's turn. I think there's in the future we're going to have one with Huey and have one with Louie and maybe even Webby and Launchpad too. Maybe to wrap it up. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll see how much Della we actually get because, like, we'll talk about this episode first, and then I guess we'll get into like larger scale things about where the show could be headed, especially now that we're heading into a hiatus soon. But like, here with the Raiders of the Doomsday Vault, we got Della and Dewey going to this Doomsday Vault in the middle of the ice land, and like they get interested in this money tree that Scrooge is describing, and they go off to find it, but stuff messes up, and then Scrooge has to go find them, and hijinks ensue. But let's see, what do I want to? I mean, Glomgold is in this episode, okay? And
all I gotta say, you know how we keep saying poor Donald? Another password I gotta say is poor Alson.
Poor Alson.
Yeah.
She's gonna be in a mental institution by the end of this series at this rate.
I don't know why she's still with Glomgold. Does he pay her?
No, I think she says she doesn't work for him. I think they're like partners. Like I think there's like sort of.
Glomgold has no appeal like Boxman. Like, I don't understand why she would just stay with Glomgold for free.
No, but she says say in this episode that she doesn't work for him. She's not his employee, so I think they're sort of like partners.
Yeah, so I think it's like a board situation where like she's like the CEO, but like Glomgold owns enough of the company that she can't get rid of him situation.
Ah, okay.
It's kind of like Boxman and Venomous now. It's sort of a partnership.
Well, it's like if Boxman and Venomous didn't like each other, but like still had to work together, you know? So, but like Alison, I appreciate that she finally gets like, you know, kind of snaps at Glomgold at the end there. It's like, what is wrong with you? And Glomgold is just like, I'm just doing schemes.
And she ditched him at the end, like at the beginning, at the end of the first act. Like she finally got some revenge.
Yeah. And then, like, the rest of the episode is Glomgold handcuffing himself to Scrooge to get him to take him to the
I
money
love
tree.
it. They become the ultimate odd couple. Also, like, rip Scrooge for that. I thought Glomgold was literally going to drown him under the ice with that chain. But I guess they made it through okay.
Yeah. They have icicles on their bills, but they get there to the vault. And then, like, Glomgold is just very uncooperative with Scrooge as he tries to get into the vault. He's like burning through. He mentioned something about their family being very complicated. It's like, oh, you got a whole family thing going on.
Yeah. Well, also Beach also mentioned that in another his episode too. It's like, and Magica mentioned the season 1 finale. All these villains sort of commenting on the complications of this family.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track if you don't live with them. You know? But and then like at the end, Glomgold is just like, yeah, I have money, but then he loses to the breeze, and then he falls in the ice.
Yeah,
like this just continues the streak that Glomgold has had of just having like really good comedic contributions whenever he shows up.
Yes.
Yeah, though probably not as good as the 87-cent solution. I think that was him at his peak.
Yeah,
that was a remarkable episode.
Especially when we went to a funeral with that actual licensed music.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like his highlight reel. But like this is still like a pretty good episode by him.
No, I do feel this is Scrooge and Glomgold. This is our more B plot. Della.
Well, they got some good focus here. Because, it felt like half of it was like Scrooge trying to get to Dewey and Della.
And I don't know about you guys, but I do feel like Della is trying to become a good mom. But I think right now she should just settle for big sister. She feels more like a big sister to Dewey in this episode than a mom. So it feels like she might get there, but she sort of maybe has to just settle for being a big sister for now.
So we have the whole Della and Dewey situation where like Dewey is very eager to get Della's approval. I think this is a thing that also happened in the early episodes with Scrooge, that Dewey was very eager to get approval from him, and now we're doing the same thing with Della. It makes sense because it's a mom situation. But
I do feel, though, to be fair, I think Della's also trying to get his approval as well, so it's like a two-way street here.
I guess. I don't get too much on Della's side of things. It's more like Della just like wants to do stuff with her son.
Yeah, she wants to bond. We're gonna get it for each son, I bet, too.
But I feel her overall goal of just spending time with Dewey is, in the end, she wants approval from all her children to in her mind, maybe just forgive her for the missing 10 years.
And so that they like break their way through this vault. They send Dewey through vents and stuff. Eventually, they get to the money seeds, but it falls in some rapid growth liquid. It turns into a giant tree, and like Scrooge has to confront Della about like, what are you doing? But like there's a small surprise where like Della actually knows where the exit was, and like she had an exit strategy planned. And we end with like Della telling Dewey that he doesn't have to prove himself to her. They fix the vault with Della's help because she knows how to weld gold. And it's all hunky-dory.
I do think a very telling thing is what Scrooge says throughout this episode. She refers to Dewey and Della as kids. She refers to the kids. Which, like I said, makes me to the point is Della is more of a big sister right now. Scrooge sees her as a child still. I don't think he ever referred to Donald as a kid, so...
Yeah. I mean, Donald had the maturity to, raise the kids, and Della is just showing up, so he's got to earn that. And this is not a great first step, but, it at least gets Della back into adventuring mode, I guess.
And she had an exit strategy this time, so she thought things through.
She did. She's doing better.
Yeah, she just has to let everyone in on what she's thinking through. But she's getting there.
Now, Steve, Ludwig von Drake is a character that exists in the DuckTales verse, right?
Yes, he exists in the Disney Ducks universe.
Oh,
He goes way back. He goes way back to like.
Is he the same? Like, is he like that? One of the conductors in those Fantasia movies, or am I mixing that up?
Not sure about that. I do know he's in a lot of Disney like 1960 educational shorts, and he talked about he sort of there's a one short when he kind of goes inside Donald's brain. He tells us like what's inside a human brain. He uses Donald as a guinea pig. So
nice.
Yeah, it's
Michelle, how did you feel about Ludwig's contributions to this episode? Because he kind of pops up a lot here.
I know I've seen him somewhere before, but for the life of me, I can't remember where. It felt like a great callback and very nostalgic, but I don't remember where he was before.
Yeah, he's been a lot of like modern day Mickey Mouse shorts, like.
But like back in the 90s or the 80s, I feel like that's when I got exposed to him.
Oh, he was in Quack Pack.
I don't think I saw Quack Pack though.
I'm trying to give you.
Did he have been somewhere else?
Well, I guess someone look up the Ludwig von Drake wiki article.
Okay.
One reference I did get that Della and Dewey are singing in the plane, and they're singing to Powerline, the guy who sings in the Goofy movie at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that was great. The standout song was such a good. Oh, I love that. It was so. I remember that movie. That was my childhood for sure.
Yeah, I feel so proud when I get a reference from the show. This is like so
good
much
feeling.
that I haven't watched.
Feelings, you got a feelings.
Yes, I do. I have many feelings.
Okay.
So we've talked about the 5 episodes, and so before we, wrap.
Oh, Louis Drake Donald's uncle. He's
okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if in this.
I think he was married to Scrooge's sister. One of Scrooge's. Okay.
Like in here, we do show Ludwig's children. I guess they currently own the company, so like Ludwig is dead in this universe.
Okay, let me list here. Okay,
we don't need to read the family tree list.
No. Talking about Ludwig, like you on his wiki stuff he's been in. Let's see. He was in the Walt Disney Anthology series. He was in the original DuckTales, Raw Tunage, Bonkers, Quackback, Mickey Mouse Works, House of Mouse, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. On the 2013 Mickey Mouse short series, Mickey Mouse and the Road Racers, and DuckTales 2017. So,
House of Mouse, maybe?
Yeah.
Did you watch House of Mouse for a little bit? No?
You see House of Mouse, Mickey Mouse had this little like nightclub with all the classic Disney characters.
Yeah. I vaguely remember House of Mouse, at least.
I remember like him in some of these. I think I know what you think about, Michelle. You're thinking about Mickey's Christmas Carol. He probably had a little role.
Maybe. I just know I know him from somewhere.
Mickey Christmas Carol, which always gives me creeps. Scrooge, his love interest, is his niece-in-law. Is just
wait, what? Wait, say that again.
Daisy played Scrooge's love interest in Mickey's Christmas Carol. Like he played Isabel.
Oh my god, that is his niece-in-law, isn't it?
Well,
Oh no, Scrooge.
Look, Scrooge gets busy. Okay, so.
No, that's a separate fanfic.
Yeah. With DuckTales. So one thing I want to bring up is that this batch, I think at the beginning we mentioned that this was of higher quality. Like it was a lot more fun than like the last batch that we did. I think like Steve, you mentioned like at least one of this episode is like the first time like none of the McDuck family shows up. I feel like we definitely are getting less of the nephews. And like I want to get your takes on that specifically, like the fact that we have like such a large cast now, and like we are doing these episodes where it's like one totally dedicated to Gizmo Duck, one totally dedicated to Webby and Lena, one totally dedicated to there's another, the Duck Knight Returns is like a Launchpad specific episode, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So then like we've got a lot of like different plots we're juggling here, and so like the nephews I feel like are beginning to like get like smaller and smaller roles here, but like I don't know how you guys feel about that in like the grand scheme of the show.
That's all right. The original series had like a bunch of episodes where the nephews didn't appear or Scrooge didn't appear. So it's done it before. so it can survive. It's different from the comics. The comics is pretty much Donald Duck and the nephews are in every story. So, yeah, this. I'm fine, yo. I'm fine. Nephews maybe getting a little break because I think we complained last season that Dewey was too much focus in the first season. Like he was like in every episode. So, I think they're balancing this out a bit nicely. Though I wish this is supposed to be the Louis season, and we really haven't really seen that yet.
Michelle, how do you feel about how the show is doing with like balancing all the cast that we've developed here?
I mean, it's a second season. I feel like in a lot of seconds, like Gravity Falls did this a lot too. Like once you have like you bring on more like side friends and more plot stuff, like people start to get separated and it can't be so tight knit anymore. And I do think that Della is kind of replacing Scrooge as this like new parental figure who everyone's going to take turns going on adventures with and forming unique relationships to. So far, I don't necessarily mind it, but I do think it's going to change the dynamic of all the characters and who they might spend the most time with. But, I mean, they're all going to have to come together to save Donald. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Because I do like seeing them work together. Like, that's the family aspect of the show is such a big part of it. And it's one of the things it does really well. And one of the things that makes it stand out, honestly, from a lot of other shows. So I hope they keep doing stuff with, like, Scrooge and all the boys. But we might see a lot more side stuff, too. And I'm cautiously optimistic that that's going to turn out fine, but we'll see.
Yeah. Like I don't think we've complained about the side stuff in this batch at least, because at least compared to last week.
Yeah. I think it'd be fine too. Especially since these new characters I like. I don't think there's really a character that's not part of the main family that I don't really like, because I like Lena, I like Violet, I like Fenton, I like Gandra, I like let's go. I like even Drake Mallard. I like all these new characters. I like all these who's not really part of the main cast per se. So. Well, like
last week we had like.
I like Storkelis. I forgot Storkelis. I can't forget Storkelis.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, Storkelis is fine. Yeah, but I mean, like last week, like we brought in Goldie again. We brought in the Paul F. Tompkins character. We brought in Doofus Drake. So like characters that like we don't have too much of a connection with.
Yeah, I don't like. Okay, just one character I don't like. I don't like Doofus.
Yeah. So like, but like last week we like were bringing in old characters that we like hadn't seen in a while. That didn't quite fit in. But like here, like we're adding new ones that like have their own charm, and so like that probably is a little bit of a contrast, right?
Okay. Maybe it's too late. Is it too early maybe to kind of compare Violet to Dendy? Because I kind of get a little bit of a Dendy vibe to Violet.
Didn't we start this podcast like comparing Webby to Dendy? You can't compare every.
Dendy is her own Kappa, okay? She's not like any other girl. She's just her own kind of girl.
She's even more so because she's sort of the way she talks about. I talk to her talking about logic, and she talks like a genius or like a really smart like computer. So,
but Dendy's more into coding, and Violet's like she's into logic, and that's why she's obsessed with magic now, right? It's because it forced her to reckon with this thing outside of what should be logical and possible, and now she like can't get enough of it. I think that's great, but it's separate from Dendy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, now we'll begin wrapping up here. Any final thoughts you want to get out before we sign off here, Michelle?
I want to see more Donald. I want to see more Donald struggling on the moon with people not being able to understand a word he says. I want to see more Lena, and I want to see more Della bonding with her kids. Because, like, so far it's actually been pretty great, and I'm here for it.
Oh, yeah. I kind of want. I agree with Michelle. I definitely want to see more Della bonding with her kids. And I'm excited. I kind of want to see more of this new dynamic, this new Webby circle of friends, Webby, Lena, and Violet. First of all, we need a name for them, but I kind of want to see them go on their own adventure, separate from the nephews. Like, I don't know, do something like maybe they encounter like Magica or some other like evil magician, and they defeat him or her, without anybody else's help. That'd be kind of cool. And definitely interested to see, though, Mama and Gandra kind of meet. I kind of want to see that dynamic, because I don't think it's going to go well for poor Fenton.
All right. So yeah, there is a lot of stuff that this week has set up for potential stuff in the future, but it might be a while. It will be until the fall. I don't know if we actually have a month. It's September.
Yes, and they show some clips. Okay. They show one episode. They show like Mark Beach with a son, perhaps robot son.
Okay.
All right,
sure.
Spoiler.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it's whatever. But yeah, so September will be when the episodes come back. So we'll have a summer to ruminate on DuckTales before potentially drop another bomb on us. But until then, you can find out the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can join us on Discord if you want to talk with us about DuckTales or any other show we cover here at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Sagittarius. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Beatrice, Hugh, and Michael. In the meantime, while we are away from DuckTales, you can catch up with our other podcasts. We've done coverage on the finale of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. We've done a 2 reaction podcast, as well as an interview with Brian H. Kim, a composer of that show. So definitely, if you're a Disney fan, you might have watched Star vs. So definitely check those.
We got Summer Camp Island coming back soon.
Maybe. Yeah, Summer Camp Island, OKKO we've recently talked about. There's Miraculous Ladybug out there, Fruits Basket. So there's a lot of different shows we cover here at Overly Animated to tide you over in the meantime until the ducks come back.
Ducks come back.
Yeah.
They will quack again.
I kind of wonder if DuckTales will come back for. Which we get first? We get new episode of DuckTales or the Steven Universe movie?
DuckTales.
That's a real good question.
I think I'm like 90% DuckTales, but yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But so until then, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.